I am a 35-year-old woman, a mother to 3 young sons and 1 precious daughter. She is my only daughter, the absolute pride and joy of my existence. I raised her with the utmost care, sheltering her from the world's harshness, and I always strive to shower her with every happiness life had to offer. Recently, the time came for my daughter to get married. It had been barely 2 months since the marriage proposal arrived from the man who would become my son-in-law. I was genuinely impressed by him from the very first moment we met. My husband and my brother-in-law thoroughly looked into his background, discussed the details, and ultimately agreed to the match. The wedding took place, and when my daughter returned to her parents' house for her first post-wedding visit, I breathed a profound sigh of relief. Seeing the serene glow of peace on her face made all my maternal worries fade away. The first few months of their marriage passed blissfully. However, as time went on, I began to notice a subtle but undeniable shift in my son-in-law's behavior toward her. Soon, I caught glimpses of tears welling up in my daughter's eyes. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just a minor misunderstanding, a trivial bump in a new marriage. But the sadness in her eyes deepened, and I realized the situation was growing severe. Seeing my child suffer was unbearable. I simply could not remain a silent spectator. Driven by a mother's fierce protective instinct, I summoned my son-in-law to our house. It was a quiet afternoon. My husband was unwell and resting heavily in his bedroom, while my sons were away at their respective offices. A heavy, almost suffocating silence hung over the entire house. When my son-in-law arrived, I escorted him into the living room and offered him a seat. I served him food and refreshments, but I had no patience for small talk. I got straight to the point. "Son, you've been acting very strangely toward my daughter lately. Has something happened between you two?" I asked, my voice laced with concern. He looked at me directly, a slight, almost calculating smile playing on his lips, and replied smoothly, "Nothing like that." But then he leaned in and uttered something that completely shattered my reality. "The truth is," he stated calmly, "I only married your daughter because of you." I was paralyzed, struck dumb by the sheer audacity of his confession. "What on earth do you mean?" I managed to whisper. He didn't flinch. "I was deeply attracted to you from the start. But you are a married woman, a mother with a family. I married your daughter simply to secure a place near you, to be closer to you. Your daughter does not interest me in the slightest. As far as I am concerned, our marital relationship will only ever be a meaningless formality." Listening to his venomous words, I desperately tried to talk some sense into him. "This is incredibly wrong. Have you lost your mind? I am your mother-in-law." He merely threw his head back and laughed. "You are a woman, too," he countered effortlessly, "and my heart is free from the constraints of these relations. The ultimate decision is entirely in your hands." Having dropped that devastating ultimatum, he stood up, turned his back on me, and walked out of the house. After he left, I sank deep into a suffocating ocean of dark thoughts. On one side weighed the monumental question of my daughter's happiness and the survival of her new home. On the other stood this bizarre, morally repulsive predicament. The sheer stubbornness and cold resolve I had witnessed in his eyes made me realize with terrifying clarity that he had absolutely no intention of backing down. I sat frozen in the living room for hours, agonizing over what I had just heard. The son-in-law I had welcomed and trusted, the man who had vowed to protect my daughter, was blackmailing me in the most unthinkable way. My conscience screamed that this was an unforgivable sin, but my mind kept flashing back to the silent, helpless tears in my daughter's eyes. His unspoken threat loomed over me. If I refused to submit to his desires, he would emotionally abandon my daughter, slowly destroying her spirit and shattering her home forever. By the time evening descended, I found myself standing by the kitchen stove, staring blankly out the window into the gathering darkness. My own life had been enveloped in a dreary shadow for years. My husband's chronic illness meant he spent most of his days confined to his bed, and the vibrant joy that once filled our home had long since withered away. I was still a woman, possessing my own buried emotions and desires, though I had suppressed them for so long that I had forgotten they existed. My son-in-law's proposition deeply infuriated and disgusted me. Yet to my own horror, it also awakened a long-forgotten, hollow ache inside me. I shook my head violently, trying to dispel the thoughts, and forced myself to focus on cooking dinner for my daughter. But my hands trembled so uncontrollably that the curry kept spilling over the edges of the pot. Sleep completely evaded me that night. His face, his arrogant smirk, and his haunting words echoed endlessly in the silence of my room. I married her just for you. For the next 2 agonizing days, I carried this toxic secret entirely alone. I dare not speak a word of it to anyone. If this scandalous truth were to leak out, it would not only obliterate my reputation, but completely destroy my daughter's life. I knew, with heavy certainty, that I had to navigate this impossible crossroad by myself. On the 3rd evening, the weight of my daughter's sorrow finally broke my resolve. I picked up the phone and dialed his number. When he answered, my voice carried the distinct, nervous hesitation of a mother yielding to defeat. I took a deep, shaky breath and spoke. I have thought everything over, I said softly. For the sake of my daughter's happiness and the preservation of her home, I am ready to accept your twisted conditions. But listen to me carefully. I have one strict condition of my own. This will happen only once. One time. After this is over, you will completely restore your relationship with my daughter. You will treat her properly and give her the love she deserves. I am taking this drastic step exclusively for her sake. He chuckled, a low, victorious sound. Don't worry, he promised. Once the distance between you and me is removed, my attitude toward her will change automatically. I hung up the phone with trembling fingers. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I felt as though I had just signed away my soul. The next morning, I woke up suffocating in regret, wondering if I was making a catastrophic mistake. But then, an image of my daughter's innocent face and her tear-stained cheeks flashed in my mind, and I ruthlessly hardened my heart against my own conscience. Later that afternoon, he called me back. Your daughter is going out to a farm tomorrow, he informed me smoothly. She will leave at 11 a.m. and won't be returning until the evening. I will be completely alone at the house. You can come over then. My breath hitched. This was the moment of reckoning I had been dreading. All right, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I will come tomorrow. Call me the second she leaves the house. The following day dragged by at an agonizingly slow pace. From the moment I woke up, I felt completely detached from reality, floating in a bizarre, numb state of existence. I avoided speaking to my family and barely touched my daily household chores. Once my daughter finally gathered her things and left with the neighbors, I sat by the phone, waiting. Presently, it rang. I am waiting for you, his voice commanded. You should get here quickly. Moving like a machine, I took a bath, applied a layer of light makeup, meticulously brushed my hair, and paused to look at my reflection in the mirror. A terrifying question lingered in my mind. Was this a horrific compulsion, or was I actively choosing to walk into the fire? As I stepped out of my house, paranoia gripped me. I was terrified that a passing neighbor or relative might spot me. Thankfully, the drive was short, and I arrived at his doorstep without incident. As soon as I knocked, he opened the door. There was a radiant, unsettling glow of triumph plastered across his face. He eagerly ushered me inside. I stepped into the house, and the heavy silence of the empty rooms swallowed me. Instead of leading me to the living room to talk, he bypassed it entirely and pushed open the door to the master bedroom. Sit down in here, he instructed softly. I'll go bring you something to drink. My heart hammered wildly against my chest. He returned moments later with a glass, which I drank down in a matter of seconds, desperate for anything to calm my frayed nerves. Over and over in my head, I repeated the mantra I had sworn to myself. Asterisk, this is only happening once. I am not doing this for my own pleasure. I am sacrificing myself solely for my daughter's survival. Asterisk. Yet, when I looked up at him, I saw no remorse. Only absolute calm and the supreme satisfaction of victory. I met his gaze fiercely. Remember what we agreed upon. I warned him, my voice trembling but firm. This happens only once. He smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. I remember everything. In that exact moment, the crushing reality settled over me. There was no turning back.